I want to teach you the most underrated drawing exercise I've ever done. So underrated that I went to art school and nobody taught it to me. And it is so good that it can change the way you look at things and the way you draw them. I'm going to give you 3 versions of this exercise depending on your skill level. And the reason I came up with this exercise is, well, this drawing. This is samnee. He is a comic book artist that has done incredible work for both Marvel and DC. If you don't know him, you should follow him on Instagram, especially right now, because in October he does Batover, where he posts a new Batman image every day, and they are all fantastic. But let's look at his art. What makes his art so good? Well, I've been loving his art for years now, and when I looked at it, I always thought that what I liked was something I came to call line economy, as in how carefully he chooses what to focus on as opposed to other artists that use a lot of lines. But that is not it. See, there's a problem with my brain that it can only think in lines. Maybe you have this problem too. Maybe it's the years of being exposed to artwork that explore everything with lines first. But samnee doesn't think in lines, he thinks in shapes. I want to show you why this is so important first, and then we can move on to the exercise so you can start thinking in shapes like Chris does. So here are other pieces of Chris's art. It is very hard to find lines in them, isn't it? And even when you see them, they are in complement to a big shape. But how does he do it? How do you start working like that? Well, here are some examples of what his sketches look like, and yes, it does start with lines, but most of these lines are silhouettes of the shapes that you'll see when his artwork is finished. Now let's go to the other extreme. This is a Jim Lee piece, and I love Jim Lee. He is the artist that made me want to become an artist. But it is hard to find shapes in this illustration, isn't it? In fact, if I zoomed this out, can you tell me what it is? It's really hard. And that is not because it is small. In fact, I'm going to add these other 2 Jim Lee images, and you can see them a lot better, can't you? And you might say, Javi, that is because the other ones have shading. And no, it is because the shading in these ones create great shapes. But it doesn't have to be about shapes versus lines. I love Pepe Larraz and Olivier Coipel, and their work is a mix of both, but even in their line work, there's a search for shapes. Like Wolverine's legs here, or this panel where you can just see his face and you can define it by very few distinct shapes. And Pepe Larraz, even when sketching, is already searching for contrast and shapes. And now I'm going to show you a more nuanced example to make this point across. These are Ben Eblen, Jensen Clans, and Loish. You might think this is just line work, but look at those lines. Their lines are interesting shapes. Look at Loish's drawings. Even with little to no shading, her lines are searching for shape. And this is not a new discovery, by the way, that there are artists from centuries ago that figured this out, and there are lots of videos out there showing how every great artist fills their work with great shapes. But now you know why it is important, because line, shape, and contrast is the basis for every great piece of art. So now onto the exercises. This is your homework. You can join the Discord that is linked in the description, and you can upload your images there, and I can look at them and we can talk about them together. Right now there's only me and Easy. Hi Easy. So if you join and upload something, you'll get your feedback. And since you also have to go to the description to click on that link, you can also click on the free month of Skillshare that I'm going to give you down there in the description too, so you can, learn other things that are not included in this video. Now, onto the exercises. I'm going to give you a few different ones depending on how confident you feel about your skills. So the first thing you'll do is search for this type of images on Google and start working on them. Just Google still life of forms and you will find plenty of them. You're going to identify the shapes of these images based on contrast. You can fill them out or you can just draw their outline. Why is this exercise important? Because your brain is tricking you into identifying objects regardless of how light and perspective is affecting them. And that is not what we want today. That is what the lines are for, and there are a million of line exercises out there, but today we are focusing on shapes. For example, look at this. This is not a cylinder. This ellipse is not the shape that you are looking for. This is. This cone is not the shape, neither is this, it's this part here. So when I'm done looking for shapes in this particular image, it looks like this. You can tell what it is, you can tell that there's a cylinder there, but the shape has nothing to do with cylinders. This is what you're looking for. If you feel like this is a little bit too extreme, maybe just get 2 pens or 2 markers, like I have a black one and a gray one, because maybe the shading is a little bit too subtle, so you are finding some trouble, finding the edges of the shapes, so you want a little bit more nuance. That's okay, you can do that. But there are lots of images that you can work on. I mean, ooh, check this one out. Are you feeling brave? I see lots of shapes in this one. All of these shapes here. Do you see them? And if you feel like you're still having trouble thinking on shapes instead of lines, just try using a marker with a very thick stroke like this one. So then you will have no other option but to painting shapes. In fact, this is what painters do every time they stroke using a very thick paintbrush. They're just filling out a shape. So try this exercise and let me know how it went. Just do it in the comments or do it in the Discord. I promise to read it and get back to you. But if you feel like that was too easy, I want you to try this. Proko, there's another YouTube channel that you should totally subscribe to, has an amazing tool for identifying values. And today we're going to use it for something else entirely. You will find the link in the description as well. That's a lot of links for you to click on today. And you're going to upload a photo of something that you want to draw and remove the sliders until you have it only in black and white. And then you're going to start looking for shapes. Look at this. I mean, you can even recognize the image when it's black and white. Can you find the shapes in this image? Of course you can. And it doesn't have to be faces though, it can be anything. I used a picture from a previous video and it helped me a lot finding shapes here. I also did it with a photo of me that my daughter took. And this one I found smaller, more interesting shapes, but you can move the sliders until you can find the type of shapes that you want to draw. Also, I may have not been super accurate with the proportions in this part of the exercise. I have a video about proportions that you can watch right away, but I wanted to focus on finding shapes, identifying them, and trying to draw them instead of being super accurate with the image I'm working on. But you can see that this is a shape, and also this is a shape too. See, once you find shapes in things, you can just draw anything, including maybe your loved ones. And that's what my next video is going to be about. So if you want to learn how to draw your loved ones before Christmas, just click on the subscribe button so you can do that next week. The third exercise, if you're feeling super confident, is to just jump in the pool and not use any reference. Start drawing from your imagination and find shapes in your lines. I've been doing this exercise myself lately and I have a long way to go, but it is changing the way that I approach my drawings. Instead of thinking of anatomy and perspective and volume, I'm thinking of shapes, and I love it. If you feel like you're already there, give it a shot. It doesn't have to be just black and white like I'm doing. In fact, you will find that there's a lot of videos talking about how Leyendeckers' art is defined by his shapes. But this last exercise is all about using your imagination, and you won't be able to do so if you don't have a very big visual library first. And if you want to know how to do that, I have a video for you that I loved making and I think that you should watch it, and it is right here.